Chapter 1. The cabin that cost almost nothing. The station's registry terminal flickered with a half-broken hollow projector. Lines of alien script crawling across the glass like neon worms. Ethan Cole leaned against the kiosk, rubbing the back of his neck, counting the few credits rattling in his account. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, and the shipyard foreman had made it clear. There was no work left for a human drifter who couldn't weld in 0G without getting sick. Then he saw it. Habitat Lot 7B, dockside ring. Price, 0.12 credits. Cheaper than a cup of recycled station water. Ethan snorted. "What's the catch?" he muttered. But the registry confirmed. No liens, no legal blocks. Just abandoned. 12 cents. Even for a shack, it was a place to sleep. Moments later, Ethan walked down dockside ring, past corroded airlocks and flickering neon written in a dozen languages. The smell of fried oils and alien spices clung to the recycled air. He found the door marked 7B, a dented metal bulkhead with a keypad so old the lights had burned out. His newly minted ownership code blinked green. The hatch groaned open. The air inside was stale, heavy with iron and something faintly sweet, like bruised fruit left too long in the sun. The cabin was larger than he expected. High ceilings, a single light strip casting a cold glow over metal beams. And then he froze. Suspended from the ceiling, bound in a lattice of steel restraints, hung a figure. Not a corpse, not machinery. A woman. No, not human. She was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, even slumped in chains, her skin a pale violet that shimmered faintly in the light. Long white hair spilled down her shoulders like a river of frost, framing a face angular and fierce even in unconsciousness. Strange glyphs burned faintly across the manacles at her wrists and ankles, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan's throat went dry. His first instinct was to back out and slam the door. This wasn't a habitat lot. This was a prison. The hum of the restraints filled the silence, low and steady. Then, with a shuddering inhale, her eyes snapped open. Twin orbs of molten gold fixed on him. Ethan staggered back, his boots scraping on metal. The alien girl's gaze was sharp, wild, disbelieving. She tried to move, but the restraints flared, holding her still with a hiss of energy. Her voice came, low and rough, in accented galactic common. "You bought this place?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah, for 12 cents. Her laugh was hollow, bitter, almost a growl. "Then, human, you owe me." The words hung in the air, heavier than the chains. Ethan stared up at her, heart hammering, realizing that the cheapest purchase of his life had just cost him everything. Chapter 2. The Giant in Chains. The restraints hummed like a hive of wasps, each pulse sending faint ripples of light across the alien girl's skin. Ethan stood frozen at the threshold, the stale air pressing against his lungs. He'd seen aliens before, dockside workers, merchants, mercenaries, but nothing like her. She was both terrifying and broken. "Own you?" Ethan finally said, voice catchy in his throat. "That's not. I just bought a room." Her golden eyes narrowed, sharp enough to cut. "This room is no room. It is a cage." She tugged against the restraints, and the metal shuddered under the strain. The glyphs flared crimson, crackling arcs of energy crawling over her limbs. She hissed, baring teeth that looked far too sharp. Ethan stumbled a step closer despite his better judgment, squinting at the restraints. They weren't crude shackles. These were crafted, precise. Old tech, but dangerous. "Who put you here?" Her silence stretched long, broken only by the hum of the chains. Finally she rasped, "Slavers. Betrayers. I was sold like spoils of war." The words hit harder than he expected. Ethan looked around the cabin, really seeing it now. Reinforced beams, floor drains, the faint scorch marks of energy weapons. This hadn't been a living space in years. It was a holding cell disguised as cheap real estate, and he had just signed his name on it. He rubbed his temple, cursing under his breath. Great. Just great. Ethan, you really hit the jackpot this time. The alien's head tilted at his muttering. Her voice dropped, quieter, almost curious. You are human. He blinked. Last I checked. Her lips curved in a humorless smile. Small, fragile. Your kind breaks easy. Thanks, Ethan said flatly. He glanced at the keypad by the door, then back at her. So if I free you, do I get torn in half, or do you say thank you and we call it even? The question hung heavy. Her eyes softened just a fraction, but the suspicion didn't leave them. If you free me, human, I may yet have reason not to kill you. That wasn't exactly comforting. Ethan paced, the deck plates clanging under his boots. He should report this. Sell her chains to the highest bidder. Walk away. But when he looked up again, her shoulders sagged against the manacles, exhaustion hidden behind defiance. He saw not a monster, but someone abandoned, humiliated, left to rot, for reasons he couldn't name. That image cut into him deeper than fear. Damn it, he muttered, stepping forward. He reached up and touched the nearest glyph card restraint. The metal was cold, humming with power, alive. He felt the charge nip at his fingertips, daring him to break it. Her eyes widened. What are you doing? Ethan swallowed hard, jaw set, trying to make the worst financial decision of my life worth something. And with that, he began to look for a way to free her. Chapter 3. Bargain of Blood and Freedom. The glyphs resisted him like stubborn embers, sparking whenever Ethan's hands brushed too close. He tried prying one restraint with a rusted wrench from the wall toolkit, but the metal sang with energy and flung the tool from his grip. Sparks rained across the deck. Fool! The alien woman hissed. Sweat glistened along her temple, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. These chains are woven with oath code. Only one who owns them can sever them. Ethan frowned. Oath code? You mean some kind of lock? Her golden eyes pinned him. Ownership binds spirit to iron. It is a mark of shame for my people. My name burned away, my strength sealed. You! She swallowed hard, her voice almost trembling. You hold that key, human. The weight of her words sank into him. He looked down at his calloused hands, still buzzing from the electric bite of the restraints. All because of 12 cents. A cheap joke had turned into possession of a living, breathing being. Ethan stepped closer, staring at the glyphs. If I say the word, if I release you, you're free? She hesitated. Yes, but know this, I am Kara of the Vadran clans. I was betrayed by my own council, handed to slavers as ransom for peace. To be unbound by a human, her jaw tightened, eyes burning with humiliation, would dishonor me, yet I will not refuse freedom. Ethan exhaled slowly, the hum of the station's engines vibrating faintly through the bulkheads. He thought of Earth, of crowded streets and cheap apartments, where people still fought tooth and nail for dignity. He knew what it was to be cornered, treated as less. And here was someone chained not for weakness, but because she had been too strong for the wrong people. His voice was steady when he spoke. Kara, I don't want to own you. I don't even want to understand this kind of system. So if saying some words breaks it, then I say... The restraints pulsed once, twice, before collapsing like dead weight. Metal clattered to the floor. Kara crumpled forward, catching herself on trembling arms. For the first time, she was free of the chains. Ethan braced himself, expecting her to strike. But Kara only looked up at him, eyes wild with disbelief. Then, slowly, she rose to her full height, towering, regal even in exhaustion. You risked your life, she said, voice low. Others would have sold me for empires. You gave me freedom for nothing. Not nothing, Ethan replied with a dry smile. 12 cents. Her laugh was short, almost broken, but it carried warmth this time. She knelt, lowering her massive frame, so her gaze was level with his. By the laws of my people, I owe a debt, not servitude, not chains, but a warrior's oath. Until my honor is restored, I stand with you. Ethan blinked. You're serious? I am Vadran, she said, hand pressed against her chest. My word is my blade. The cabin that had been a cage now felt impossibly smaller, as if it couldn't contain the strange new bond sparking between them. Ethan had freed her, but in that moment he realized he'd also bound himself to Kara, to her war, to something far bigger than 12 cents could ever measure. Chapter 4, Starships and Shadows. Dockside Ring never slept. The outer quarters of the station were a mess of flashing hollow signs, sizzling food carts, and the metallic tang of coolant venting from overworked engines. Ethan pulled his jacket tighter as he pushed through the crowd, Kara at his side, even hunched and draped in a scavenged cloak. She towered over everyone, drawing stares like a beacon. Keep your head down, Ethan muttered. Kara's golden eyes scanned the alien bazaar, watching vendors hawk crystalline fruit under buzzing lamps and mercenaries barter for plasma rifles. You hide like prey, she whispered, her deep voice carrying a tone of irritation. Vadran walked with pride, even among enemies. Ethan gave her a sharp look. Yeah, well, humans walk with survival. Pride doesn't stop plasma bolts. Her lips curved faintly, but she said nothing more. That was when he saw them, 3 figures in matte black armor, their helmets flickering with targeting HUDs, weaving through the crowd with predatory focus. Hunters. His gut tightened. Word had spread faster than he thought. Kara, he hissed, tugging her toward a narrow side passage. The hunters spotted them instantly. Shouts cut through the market din, followed by the hiss-crack of energy weapons. The crowd scattered in a storm of panic. Ethan dragged Kara down the passage as plasma bolts scorched walls behind them. The alley pitched downward into a service shaft, the grav field weakening. Ethan leapt, boots skimming the grated wall before gravity sputtered out entirely. His stomach lurched as weightlessness took hold. Kara flailed, her massive frame colliding with the narrow walls, sending sparks flying. Calm down, Ethan shouted, grabbing a handhold. Use the momentum, not force. Her growl echoed through the shaft, but she steadied herself, following his motions. The hunters launched after them, magnetic boots clamping to walls, rifles flashing in the dark. One bolt scorched past Ethan's head, filling the corridor with ozone and burning metal. Ethan's mind raced. No weapons, no plan, just instinct. That was a human way, wasn't it? He kicked off a wall, spinning into the shaft side console. Sparks cascaded as he ripped the panel free and yanked at the exposed wiring. Were you? Kara began. The lights flickered, and then the grav field surged back on with a violent snap. Everyone dropped. Ethan hit the deck hard, gritting his teeth against the pain. The hunters slammed down too, armor clanging, but Kara landed in a crouch and sprang forward like a thunderstorm. Her fist crashed into the nearest hunter, sending him sprawling into the bulkhead. Another raised his rifle, but she tore from his hands and bent it like scrap. Ethan scrambled to his feet, heart hammering, adrenaline flooding his veins. When the last hunter lay groaning, Kara turned to him, chest heaving. You are reckless, she growled. And you're welcome. Ethan shot back, wiping sweat from his brow. For a long moment, she simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she nodded. Perhaps humans do not break so easily after all. The words lingered, heavier than the smoke still hanging in the corridor. Chapter 5, Between Hearts and Homeworlds. The freighter's engine hummed with a tired rhythm, a hollow thrum that resonated to the narrow cabin. Ethan sat cross-legged on the deck, fiddling with a cracked datapad he'd salvaged, while Kara rested against the bulkhead across from him. She looked smaller now. If someone 3 meters tall and armored in muscle could ever look small. Her cloak pulled around her knees, and the dim light traced the pale violet of her skin like moonlight on water. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't hostile, just heavy, filled with unspoken questions. Ethan finally broke it. "You haven't told me why they wanted you." Kara's golden eyes opened slowly, fixed on him with an intensity that made him want to look away. But he held her gaze. "My people," she began, voice low, "are bound by honor. Every battle, every pact, every oath, it defines who we are. I was chosen as emissary to a rival clan. I offered peace." Her jaw tightened. "They accepted, then sold me to off-world slavers. To admit such betrayal is to admit weakness. My council abandoned me to hide their shame." Ethan felt his chest tighten. The betrayal was sharp even to hear about. "So they just left you? Pretended you didn't exist?" Her nod was slow. "To be dishonored is worse than death. My name, my rank erased." Ethan set the datapad aside, leaning forward. "Back home, people betray each other all the time. Politics, corporations, even families. But you know what's different?" He tapped his chest. "We don't erase people. We fight. We scrape by. Even if the whole system wants you gone, we keep going just to spite them." Kara tilted her head, studying him as though he were some rare, puzzling artifact. "Stubbornness," she murmured. "That is your strength." "Sometimes," Ethan said with a tired grin. "It's all we've got." For a moment, something softened in her features. The warrior's mask slipped, and beneath it was weariness, sorrow, and something almost vulnerable. "You risked everything for me," she said quietly. "Why?" Ethan shrugged, though his throat was tight. "Because you didn't deserve chains. And because I couldn't stand the thought of walking away." Her eyes lingered on him, and the silence between them shifted, warmer now, threaded with something fragile. Kara leaned her head back against the wall, exhaling slowly. "Among my people," she said, "a debt of blood is sacred. But this feels different." "Good," Ethan replied softly, "because I don't want you to own me. I want you to choose." The ship creaked as it drifted through the void, stars wheeling beyond the viewport. Kara closed her eyes, but her lips curved faintly, the barest shadow of a smile. For the first time since she'd opened her golden eyes in that cell, Ethan felt the tension ease, not gone, but tempered. Trust was growing, delicate as glass, between two souls who should never have met. Chapter 6. The Cabin's True Price. The dying star loomed like an open wound, its surface boiling with crimson flares that painted the cockpit in blood-red light. Ethan's knuckles were white on the controls, the freighter rattling with every surge of radiation. The NAV system screamed warnings, but the hunters were closing fast. Sleek black craft gliding through the stellar winds with predatory precision. "They'll catch us in minutes," Ethan muttered, sweat stinging his eyes. "Engines can't take much more." Behind him, Kara stood braced against the bulkhead, her silhouette etched in firelight. Even battered and weary, she looked carved from defiance itself. "Leave me," she said, her voice steady though her chest rose with ragged breaths. "You can still escape if you eject my pod." Ethan spun in his chair. "Not happening." Her golden eyes burned with frustration. "Foolish human, this fight is not yours. My chains were mine to bear. My death would restore my honor." "And what about mine?" Ethan snapped, the words ripping free before he could stop them. "What about the fact that I bought a damn cabin for 12 cents and found someone worth more than every credit in this galaxy chain inside? You think I'm going to walk away now? The silence that followed was heavier than the hum of the engines. Kara's hands tightened into fists, trembling not with weakness but with emotion. The freighter jolted as plasma fire tore across its flank. Ethan gritted his teeth, forcing the old ship into a dive that scraped the edge of the star's corona. Radiation alarm shrieked. The hunters pursued, shields shimmering against the stellar winds. Ethan's mind raced. Running wasn't enough. They had to fight. He glanced at Kara. Can you still move? She bared her teeth in something between a grin and a snarl. I can still kill. Good. Then follow my lead. He yanked the freighter into a sharp spin, diving straight toward the star. The hunters followed, assuming desperation. At the last second, Ethan cut engines, slamming the ship into a drift. The hunters shot past, struggling to correct. Now, he shouted. Kara burst from the hatch into the star's burning glare, armored only by raw fury and the grav clamps he'd scavenged for her boots. She launched herself across the narrow gulf, landing on the lead hunter's craft with bone-shaking force. Her fists became hammers, tearing into the cockpit glass, ripping steel apart like cloth. Ethan twisted the freighter around, weapons panels flickering to life. Half-dead turrets spat fire, strafing the second hunter as Kara ripped the first apart with her bare hands. The last craft hesitated, caught between the raging star and the impossible sight of human and alien fighting as one. It broke formation, fleeing into the void. Silence returned, broken only by the dying groans of the ship. Kara hauled herself back through the hatch, her chest heaving, blood and starlight streaking her skin. She looked at Ethan, golden eyes blazing. You refuse my death, she whispered. You gave me back my life. No clan, no oath, no chains. Only choice. Ethan smiled, exhausted but unbroken. And what do you choose? Kara knelt, lowering her towering frame, so her gaze was level with his. Her voice was quiet, fierce, certain. I choose you. The freighter drifted on, battered but alive, carrying two souls bound not by chains, but by something far greater. The cabin that cost 12 cents had become the spark of a bond worth more than empires. The freighter drifted in silence, its battered hull glowing faintly under the watch of alien constellations. Beyond the viewport, the scarred star they had escaped from burned like a warning in the void. Inside, the hum of the engines was soft, steady, like a heartbeat refusing to quit. Ethan sat in the cockpit, bruised but alive, fingers resting on the controls, as if daring the universe to throw one more fight his way. Behind him, Kara stepped forward, her shadow stretching across the cabin. She had washed the blood from her skin, but the fire in her golden eyes still burned. She placed a massive hand on his shoulder, gentle in a way her strength should not have allowed. You should not exist, she murmured. Fragile, small, yet you break chains the stars themselves could not. Ethan looked up at her, a tired smile tugging at his lips. Guess that's just the human way. We don't stop. Not for anyone. Not even the impossible. For the first time, Kara lowered herself into the co-pilot's seat, her frame awkwardly large for it. Yet her presence fit perfectly. The two of them gazed out at the endless galaxy, no longer hunter and hunted, not prisoner and savior, but equals bound by choice. Her voice softened. Then let us walk the impossible together. Ethan squeezed her hand, his voice barely above the hum of the ship. Together, Kara, all the way. The freighter's engines flared, carrying them toward a horizon wide enough for both their worlds.